What does FNAF Into the Pit hide behind the scenes in the prologue in Oswald's house? In this FNAF novel turned pixelated horror, you play as a kid named Oswald, as he finally gets the exciting summer he wanted. Only it's not what he was hoping for. In this side-scrolling horror experience, you'll explore a mysterious pizzeria called Jeff's Pizza, uncovering the world's strangest method of time travel in the process, eventually leading to a horrifying encounter with the Yellow Rabbit. Today we'll be taking a look behind the scenes at some things we can't typically see, like a ton of unused assets hidden in the game files. We'll also be breaking everything we can along the way, like warping to the end of the game. So I hope you enjoyed today's look behind the scenes of Into the Pit. So as usual, I like to do a quick recap on the events we'll be covering, that way we're all on the same page. So the prologue begins with Oswald showing off his legendary drawing skills, only to be interrupted by his father a moment later, so they can drive to Jeff's Pizza. Oz expresses his boredom to his father, wishing for something more eventful than a dusty pizzeria, which he definitely won't regret in a few minutes. Your dad then drops you off. Your father ends up being late to pick you up, so you explore the place a little bit. Eventually, you'll find a room containing a ball pit, get jump scared by a spider, and then cannonball straight into the past. Things look a lot different now, and the place is basically full of kids compared to before. You then meet up with two kids, Mike and Chip, to go play some pizza roller, which I completely nailed by the way. Afterwards, you'll play tag, and then a game of hide and seek, and you choose the worst possible place to hide, a vacant Freddy suit stashed in the back. We'll put a pin in the recap for now, and restart this level. As we restart the prologue, we can have a closer look at Oswald's drawings, and from another angle, we can watch as soon as he leaves the scene. This cutscene itself is a pixelated animation that plays out on a flat panel floating in space, though it's a little more complicated than that. When we jump ahead to the car scene, we see that it's the same story, a rectangular cutscene playing in an empty void. Though this cutscene appears to be a single looping image, it's actually made up of several different pieces that are used to construct the scene itself. As you can see, we can turn off several objects that make up this animated sequence, and by disabling the windshield, it'll look as though we're driving in the black and night with no headlights. We can also separate the layers into the 3D space they occupy in order to see how the animation is built in the scene. While playing through this short segment, you'd never know that it was composed of these various layers, so it's really cool to see from this angle. Continuing on, we'll stop at this intersection where we see a dead possum. And there are a couple of things you may have not noticed here, considering this level is only visible for about 5 seconds. For starters, there are a few broken windows on top of these buildings, and there's a rather neat secret you probably missed. This broken glass forms what looks like a spooky face, and the one next to it heavily resembles Spring Bonnie. On the other side, there's also what looks like Bonnie's head as well, and it'd be hard to catch all these things in the short time they're visible. Now, I didn't feel right moving out from the scene without breaking something, so I turned the truck behind us into a monster truck. When the cutscene plays out, our car will pull up beside the possum, and the truck will ease its way into the scene, committing the softest fender bender I've ever witnessed. After passing by our dearly departed possum friend, we'll arrive outside of Jeff's Pizza, which from the outside doesn't seem nearly as bad as Oz made it out to be. If there weren't a pink eye infested time machine inside, I wouldn't mind spending the summer here. But with the intro sequence coming to an end, we'll enter Jeff's Pizza, where we'll gain control over the player. Once here, we can pull the camera back and get a much clearer look at how this map is constructed. As I said before, even though during typical gameplay, it appears to be a 2D side-scroller, the entirety of this map is built in 3 dimensions. Majority of the level's assets are placed on different layers at varying distances from the background. And using a sort of forced perspective, it creates the illusion of a 2D game with a more expansive range of motion. The tables, chairs, lights, and even NPCs are all objects placed in front of the background, and aren't really attached to anything. The ground we walk on is part of a flat image placed in the back of the scene, and because of this, the player isn't standing on anything at all. Oz's movement is also a bit different than you'd think, and as he moves up and down the scene, you can see he simply moves closer or further from the background itself. The camera is also tied to the player's position, which further helps in completing this illusion. All these factors work together to create the seamless appearance of a flat environment, which is really cool. Before we explore Jeff's Pizza, Oz sits by himself at a table across from some other guests. There are multiple versions of these characters present in the scene, they're just not loaded in at the same time. And by using my hacker powers, I managed to bring them back from an alternate dimension. I felt bad seeing Oz sit by himself though, so I moved this hidden set of guests over to his table so he didn't have to eat on his own. Oz still seems a bit sad, but hey, pizza parties are better with good company, even if they're multi-dimensional clones of people you've never met. And speaking of unexpected guests, Oz's father is also present in this scene, and we can bring him back into existence where he'll just stand there in his idle animation. Also, he's learned to levitate apparently. Glorious! Now as we head into the ball pit room, we're hit with a pretty sudden jump scare by a spider crawling across the screen. It turns out that the spider isn't just really close to the screen, but instead, it's as big as the ball pit itself. I thought it was odd that Oz was scared by a spider crawling on the other side of the room, but this massive, 8-legged freak would scare me too, considering he's 3 times my size. The spider itself is layered in such a way that Oz always appears behind it, even though he's much closer to the camera in the scene. The spider itself crawls across the map, and you can even see his red eyes at one point, which is barely visible during a regular playthrough. While exploring this room, I found a few hidden assets that you would never typically see. These foreground sprites are, at least to my knowledge, old assets that were eventually replaced but never removed from the game. The earlier version of this game took on a more Super Nintendo-like visual style before it was ultimately changed. We can now jump into the ball pit and travel back in time, and during this transition, we'll see that Oswald basically dives into an invisible Mario pipe, disintegrating as he does. The balls from the ball pit then fly upward and out of sight as a separate group of them fall in front of the camera. After arriving in the past, we'll find ourselves in a near identical room, only now it's a lot brighter and full of children. There's not much to see in this room at the moment, so let's continue onward. Out to the main dining area, the stage is now occupied by a few recognizable characters, Bonnie, Freddy, and Chica. These characters are just kind of grooving together on stage, but together might be stretching it a bit. From another angle, you'll see that each of these characters are standing a lot further apart than they appear, even though it looks like they're basically side by side from our usual view. Next, we'll meet Chip and Mike, who invite us to play Pizza Roller in the arcade, but not before this creepy silhouette appears to stare us down. When this short animation plays out, a separate door is loaded in directly on top of the real one, and it displays a short animation. As the door closes, this animated asset will be unloaded and reveal the regular door once again. Before continuing onto the arcade to meet up with the others, I removed the invisible barrier blocking our access to the stage, and I was able to climb up with the animatronics. Fortunately, they have no colliders, and we can't interact with them, so we won't be taking part in the Bite of 85 today. We can, however, walk backstage, which we're definitely not supposed to do yet, and have a look around. Because I want to tackle this game as chronologically as possible, we won't be messing around here for a little while yet, but I just want to know that I could. With that being said, we can now head over to the arcade to play some Pizza Roller with our new pals. There's not a lot to see in this minigame, as the machine is only a flat image that's tied to the camera's position. When it's disabled though, we can see that the ball itself is moving in a 3D space. The machine is programmed to always appear behind the ball and power overlay, giving the illusion that the thrown ball is traveling down the lane and into one of the 7 holes. Something a bit more interesting though is an asset hidden within this level that's kind of a big deal. On the very far right wall of the arcade is a broken down arcade machine, and behind it is what looks like a torn up poster. It turns out there's a hidden door labeled Killer Door that we can make interactable using the power of hacks. Where this door leads you is what makes it so interesting though, and going through it takes you to the very last level of the entire game. Your father is tied to a chair here, and after being freed, Springtrap will arrive and take him away as usual. We of course don't want to finish the game yet, so we'll be heading back through the vents and doing things the hard way. Sorry Pops, I've got a game to break. Now after playing tag with Mike and Chip, they'll suggest a game of hide and seek, resulting in Oz hiding in the safest place imaginable, an empty Freddy suit. Despite this, the only threat we face here is Spring Bonnie as they walk by. From another perspective, we can see that the first-person view from the suit is loaded into the same scene as before, and is placed in front of the regular gameplay area. Also, Spring Bonnie never really walks in front of us. The enemy we see through the eye holes is only animated for what we can see. That means if we pull these layers apart, we'll see that the animation is still only visible for what we can see through the suit, which looks pretty strange. Understandable though, because animating sprite work takes a lot of time, so why create more work? After leaving the suit, we'll exit the arcade to find several children fleeing from the dining area. From another angle, we'll see that these kids clip directly through the wall as the doors open and nope, out of existence. The same applies to the children in the next room as well, and I really can't blame them. We'll once again run to Spring Bonnie, this time standing in the party hallway. During the sequence, they'll wave at the player and leave through the door behind them. And as you probably guessed by this point, this cutscene is constructed using multiple layers. By pulling them away from the backdrop, we can see that they'll walk through a non-existent door as the screen fades to black. After following them into the back, we'll open a door only to get jump scared as a chase sequence begins. From this angle, you can see that the door Oz opens and the room we're walking into are extremely far apart. We can also watch in super slow motion as we're attacked and really admire the effort that went into this short sequence. It's super creepy. If we successfully block the Yellow Rabbit's attack, we can see that a chair is thrown into the mix during this cutscene, and also Oz's hands throwing it. These objects are, in actuality, much like the door, way too far from the scene to actually benefit us. But hey, that's the magic of game design. During this chase sequence that follows, we'll have to run to the ball pit room and Marty McFly our way back to the future. You're basically forced to go to the ball pit room as well, since the potential hiding places in this map are currently inaccessible. If we were to restore usability to one of the vents though, we can actually break this sequence and safely evade our enemy. We can now walk around the pizzeria during this chase sequence without the constant threat of being jump scared. I was then able to sneak into the ball pit room, but unfortunately, the game re-triggers the chase and Spring Bonnie becomes aware of our location. So we had to quickly dive in to avoid our demise. So after you exit the ball pit, Oz's father will be waiting in the room to give you a stern talking to. Lucky for us, we won't be getting grounded today, since he gets dragged into the pit pretty much immediately by you-know-who. So, awesome? From another angle, we can watch as he's pulled in, and just sort of clips out of existence in the process. The same effect is used when Oz is trying to pull him out, essentially reconstructing his father out of thin air. They then slide towards the camera and lay there, looking extremely unimpressed. We're not even finished with the first night, and they seem completely fed up. Oz's dad is clearly not feeling like himself now, and drags us into the car so he can drive us home. We enter a driving sequence similar to the intro sequence, only now it's a lot darker, and we can see the reflection of Spring Bonnie in the mirror. As we arrive at Oz's house, we'll see that our Uber driver is definitely not who we expected. In this short arrival scene, there are actually two versions of Spring Bonnie present, the one in the car and the one that chases us as we run away. And by bringing them into existence early, we'll end up creating this rather frightening scene. Now, I wasn't expecting this, but when exiting the car, there's a brief period where both animatronics are present at the same time, which is way funnier than it should be. The copy who's licensed to drive then unloads as we make a break for it. We're then dragged into the house as the prologue ends and Night 1 begins. Now as we enter Night 1, we'll have to locate a phone somewhere in the house so we can call our mother to come and save us. We're free to explore Oswald's house before doing so, eventually stumbling upon the bedroom where Spring Bonnie is enjoying a little nap. We'll have to get their attention by making noise somewhere in the house, which allows you to grab the phone and contact Oz's mother. She arrives home shortly after, but much to our dismay, she doesn't believe anything's wrong. So we're sent to our room for the night. From here, we'll have to escape the house, so we grab a ladder from the attic and evade the animatronic hunting us as we head for the garage. After climbing through the window, we can choose a location to go, heading to Jeff's Pizza in order to search for our missing father. From here we dive into the past once again, find a kid trapped in an endoskeleton, and eventually find a screwdriver that will be needed to break him free. We'll have to head back to the future, take the trash to the mill for Jeff in order to get the basement key, and head to the past yet again to grab the screwdriver. We can then free the stuck child, only to be chased out by Spring Bonnie, and we head home as Night 1 comes to an end. Jumping back in time, the very first location we'll check out is Oz's bedroom, because there's a lot more to see here than you'd expect. First off, we need to address the creeper staring in our window. When you load into this night, a silhouette can be seen looking through the window, and they'll unload when we try to investigate. We can force them back out of hiding and move them inside for a better look, and it's a lot creepier than I first thought. This creature, identified in the game files as the Stitch Wraith, is an Easter egg referencing the Fazbear Frights book series. To my knowledge, this creature only makes this one appearance, and it's a brief one. Looking at this monstrous creature up close is almost worse than seeing them in the window, and I'm glad we only encountered them once. Speaking of Easter eggs, the various posters in our room are also references to existing materials, both FNAF related and otherwise. For instance, this poster looks to be a depiction of Godzilla. There are a few real movie posters that look similar to this, but I can't say if it's one in particular. Among these posters, there's an Easter egg labeled Kurt Carrion poster, as well as a movie poster for the Twisted Ones, both being references to the Fazbear Frights anthology. Within this bedroom, there are also a multitude of hidden foreground objects, some being simple set pieces, and the others being duplicate assets of the objects placed throughout. That's it for the bedroom though, so we're going to say farewell to our Stitch Wraith companion here and move on. While being chased, you can hide in a multitude of locations to evade Spring Bonnie, but this leads to a short QuickTime event where the player must input certain buttons to stay hidden. Here, we'll have to stop the toys from giving away our position, and we can see that they just kind of load in out of sight and move upward. The hilarious thing about this is that the bedsheet hides something pretty unexpected. If we delete it, we'll see that our enemy is no more than a set of disembodied feet that walk by the bed. However, the moment we're jump scared in this sequence, the bedsheet magically reappears as we're were attacked. As we continue this night, there are a few obstacles we need to complete before we can leave the house, and they're made complicated by the presence of a certain yellow rabbit. I decide to make friends with our enemy for the moment and break their AI, resulting in them running at Oz, but being incapable of killing the player. This resulted in them repeatedly running into me and screaming in my face, but that's the worst they can do. Well, that's what I thought anyway, but I'll talk about that in a moment. With my newfound safety, I made my way to the living room to have a look around, where I was once again able to bring some old assets into the scene. Most noticeably, the Super Nintendo-style objects now visible in the foreground. There's not much else besides this though. Next, I wanted to take a look in the attic, and this was a bit of a mistake. I had forgotten I previously broke our enemy's AI and hid in the chest, and after the hide-and-seek game, they just sort of slid away. They also couldn't leave the attic, nor could I exit the chest, soft-locking my game and forcing me to reload my save. Well played, sir. After grabbing the ladder and heading to the garage, I was expecting to just climb out through the window. For some reason, I was unable to do so, and I assumed it had something to do with the giant animatronic screaming in my face. So I ran to the other side of the house to get some distance, only to be jump scared by nothing. Unfortunately, a big sound effect when breaking games is a broken game. Shocking. Reloading the game once again, I managed to make my escape, and we can see the house from an outside view. Even here, there are older versions of these graphics in the game files that we can bring back and see in game. The house, yard, and background all looked a lot different, and it's interesting to see how it changed in the final build. Also, in the upper left window, we can see what I believe is the silhouette of Spring Bonnie as the light flickers. For the most part, there isn't a whole lot to see at Jeff's that we haven't already looked at, but while exploring, I found there are a bunch of old sprites in the arcade, similar to the retired graphics we looked at previously. They're mostly unused foreground sprites of what look like games and tables, but not much else. The same thing applies to the party hallway as well, with more Super Nintendo-styled sprites in the foreground that we can check out. Heading into the ball pit room, we can bring back a door blocked by boxes on the left side of the room, though I wasn't able to repair its functionality, so I can't use it unfortunately. As we jump into the past though, we'll have to assist the child stuck inside the endoskeleton. While here I was able to bring the unstuck version of this child, known in the game files as Trevor, into the scene early. That means there are two versions of this character present at the moment, except one's in a less fortunate state than the other. Now, even though he's standing right beside me, I forced the sequence to begin where we free him from the suit, making the trapped version completely disappear. I then interacted with Trevor as usual, resulting in him walking in place as the chase sequence began. He then ran to the left as Spring Bonnie appeared, and as I followed him, the game broke as I reached the door. Spring Bonnie was also locked in place, so I thought I was once again soft-locked in this case, and would have to restart my game, but I spoke a little too soon. For some reason, I was randomly teleported back to the center of the map, and just a moment later, I came back to save Trevor again. This was really confusing, and even Spring Bonnie refused to deal with this today, and just left. Sadly, the game took away my ability to control Oz here, so I had to reset once more. And after finishing the chase sequence, we reached the end of Night 1. And with that, that's everything I found hidden while breaking the game in the prologue and Oswald's house. We still have a lot to cover, so make sure you're subscribed, that way you'll be notified when my next video drops. Thanks for watching, and cheers!